This is the second video in this short series in which we're considering whether Jewish understanding about the Messiah was fulfilled in Jesus. The rabbi explained that the identity of the Messiah would need to be kept a secret as long as possible in order to divert satanic attention away from him. He would therefore be the most unexpected person, the last person anyone would think of being the promised Messiah. It's a great point and was perfectly fulfilled in the birth of Jesus and all its unusual details. The poor family, the birth in a cave stable, the flight to Egypt and a discreet return to Nazareth where he would work as a humble carpenter stroke stonemason. And we know next to nothing about the childhood of Jesus. And all the while, I can imagine Satan's attention was on the prominent families of Jeru-salem. Well, we covered all of this in the first video. But there was a major problem, and the rabbi went on to give the Jewish solution to it. This is the problem. The prophecies sometimes spoke of the incredible suffering of the Messiah, such as the long suffering servant passage in Isaiah, and in some of the Psalms and in the book of Zechariah. Yet, in other places, there is worldwide acknowledgement of his glory. You find it in Psalms and, of course, in the book of Isaiah. In fact, the most famous passage in Isaiah, chapter 53, speaks of suffering and triumph all together in that passage. It begins with, "He will be exalted and extolled and be very high." But it goes on to say that he will be despised and rejected, and his visage or face is marred more than any man. And it refers to his unjust killing. So what is going on? This is an impossible Messiah. He's rejected, beaten and killed, yet will be exalted and extolled and reign in Zion. It also transpires that it pleased God that all these things occurred. So what possible conclusion could the rabbi come to? Well, he said this. He said that there will be two Messiahs who come at the same time in history. One, known as Mashiach ben Yosef, Messiah son of Joseph, will be the one who suffers. And the other one who comes at the same time is Mashiach ben David, the Messiah son of David, and he will be the one to rule and reign in Zion. So they both come at the same time. Two Messiahs at the same time. We, however, believe that there is but one Messiah who comes two times with a passage of time in between. He comes first to die as the lamb and be resurrected and return or disappear, if you like, for a while. And then he reappears as the lion to re-establish the kingdom. But just look at the rabbi's description of Messiah's suffering and see if you can distinguish it from that of Jesus' suffering. He stated that the suffering of the Messiah will not have merely national relevance to Israel. It won't be solely for the Jews. No, he will contend with evil, with Satan, and with the nations. His suffering and death will have cosmic significance and beyond. It will extend into the very spiritual realm. The rabbi said that it will be the Messiah's task to go into the Klippa. Now, what is the Klippa? You've probably not heard of it. The Klippa is their name for a husk or shell of evil which surrounds and confines mankind, preventing the manifestation of God's presence in this world. In modern terms, we would call it a force field that separates God's glory from this world. The true light cannot reach us. Well, the Messiah will enter into this Klippa and break its hold over mankind, and most importantly, he will remain righteous whilst he does so. He will engage evil at its most basic level, entering into the very heart of the beast, and yet himself remain untainted. Well, the writer to the Jews, who wrote the book of Hebrews in our New Testament, explained that Jesus became one of us. he became flesh so that, quote, through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is, the devil, Hebrews 2:14. And when Peter tried to dissuade Jesus from going to the cross, Jesus rebuked him sharply. You find that in Matthew 16:22 following. Later, Jesus said to God, my soul is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? But for this purpose I came to this hour. John 12:27. And John wrote, for this purpose was the Son of God manifest, to destroy the works of the evil one. 1 John 3:8. And when Jesus returned from the grave, he was so holy that he forbade Mary to touch him. John 20:17. He had to present himself to the Father first as a pure offering. He fought in the belly of the beast and returned as righteous as he was when he entered. That was part of his victory. Well, the rabbi quoted a story out of the Talmud, which deals with an imaginary conversation between God and the Messiah before creation. Although the conversation is imaginary, the details are based on a wide range of messianic passages in the Old Testament. Well, I'll quote it using the rabbi's own words. It goes like this. God approaches the Messiah saying, at the end of time, these people you are seeking to protect will deserve annihilation. A certain amount have sinned so grievously. The Messiah says, no, it can't be that way. I will accept suffering on myself. I will suffer on behalf of all the Jews who live in my time and in all the generations going back to Adam and everyone to come, including stillborns and everyone that ever lived. The rabbi explained here that the Messiah willingly suffers for all mankind. The story goes on. God says, their sins are going to make you suffer under an enormous weight. They will place upon you beams of iron and a yoke of solid iron. They will make you like an ox and greatly disturb your spirit with this yoke. And because of the sins of this people, your tongue will be stuck to your mouth. Psalm 22:15. Do you want this? The Messiah says, will this be for a long time? God replies, only for a week. If this depresses you, I shall remove them. In other words, if the Messiah will not suffer, God will remove humanity. God will destroy humanity. The Messiah replies, with joy in my heart, I accept it upon myself, all the suffering. This is what I want, and I accept it. With joy in his heart. You may recall that the writer to the Jews, the book of Hebrews, reminded them that, quote, for the joy that was set before him, Jesus endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2. The story goes on. They brought beams of iron and they put them on his neck, and he bent down and he started crying and his voice went up to heaven. I can't bear this. How much strength do I have? How much spirit? Am I not human flesh? God replies, but you promised. I will also bear some of their suffering. I will go together with you and bear some of their suffering in exile. Here the rabbi explained that the divine presence will expiate the sins of the Jews, adding, quote, whatever that means, unquote. Well, he knew that to expiate means to make amends or make reparation for something. But I imagine he was confessing that he didn't know how this would work out. Well, in the next video, I'll tell you what he discovered. But back to the story. The Messiah says, "My mind is now set at rest, because it is sufficient for a servant to be like his master. And if the master will also bear some of the suffering, I will bear it." And that's the end of the story. As fanciful as the story is, I hope you can see how they have woven together many of the prophetic scriptures and made a composite figure, an identikit portrait that unsurprisingly echoes many central doctrines of our salvation. They have yet to see that these things were fulfilled through the most unlikely person of all, Jesus of Nazareth, the one they least suspect. When Jesus suffered on the cross, God himself suffered. That's what the story was telling us. The declaration on the tablet above his head, the titulus, when he was on the cross, titulus meaning title or inscription, it read, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." Well, it was written in Latin, Greek, and Hebrew. And in Hebrew, it's 4 words. Yeshua HaMashiach v'melech HaYehudim. And the first letters of these 4 words are Yeshua, Yud, HaMashiach, Hay, v'melech, Vav, HaYehudim, Hay. Yud, Hay, Vav, Hay. And those 4 letters make up the tetragrammaton, or the personal name of God himself. The rabbi explained that the divine presence at the cross will expiate or atone for the sins of the people, adding, whatever that means. Well, Rabbi, we might say it means this, that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. John 3:16. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll join us for the next video. Until then, be blessed, keep looking up, and trust in God. Amen.